Tari Pori MP wants restoration in Hela to begin. More houses burning despite efforts to quell tribal fighting in Tari. And Eda Ranu continues tests for quality water.
This is the National EMTV News with Meribah Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Monday's news. Acknowledging the overwhelming support of relief supplies to the people of Hela, Tari Pori MP James Marape wants the restoration phase to begin. He says work must begin to rebuild infrastructure and services damaged by the recent earthquake. He made these statements 5 days after Parliament passed the restoration bill.
Speaking in Port Moresby, Mr. Marape wants authorities to begin fixing services affected by the earthquake. He said the focus must move away from the current relief work. He says the restoration phase must begin.
Your government has taken responsibility. We now have set up the formal structure to handle the restoration, concluding the relief phase and moving into the restoration phase, which will entail picking up all the infrastructures that were destroyed, like classrooms and health facilities, as well as roads, airports, bridges, rebuilding them for immediate use, as well as reconstructing them or constructing them for permanent use down the line.
In a special parliamentary meeting last week, Parliament met to pass the restoration bill. This comes following the massive 7.5 earthquake that struck Hela, Southern Highlands and other 4 provinces. However, in the past 10 days, the small town of Tari is under siege with ethnic clashes. There are confirmed reports of 5 deaths, among them school children. Reports say police are doing the best to maintain order. The Tari Pori MP says Police Commissioner has given the green light for a new police structure for Hela.
But permanent police hopefully by next year, and we will work to ensure that over 500 policemen permanently based in Hela, so the Police Commissioner is cognizant to this fact.
Meanwhile, the Finance Minister dispelled rumors of fracking used in the current oil and gas projects in the country.
As far as we know in our country, there's no fracking technology is not used as a conventional technique that is used for extraction of gas and oil right now. But we leave those discussions for the time being.
Jack Lopave Jr., National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the Tari Pori MP says authorities will address the recent killings in Tari. Mr. Marape says community leaders, police and those clans involved in the fights will meet to find a way forward. He says those responsible will be held accountable.
Those are the issues that is going on, and I did send an appeal to our people up there. Look, the Council of Elders will sit down and deal with the way we deal with compensation up there, whilst the police will go on dealing with who are the murderers and what are the causes of this. So I've made appeal to our people that lay down your guns and allow mediation and police work to take place.
And more houses have been burnt near Tari, Hela province as the tribal conflict continues. Staff at a Catholic primary school outside of Tari reported that gunshots were fired near the school at about 4 p.m. this afternoon and more houses were set on fire. Additional security forces have been sent to quell the fighting, which started from payback killings. Of major concern is the number of high-powered weapons in the hands of tribesmen. Relief activities by the Evangelical Church of Papua New Guinea in the Hela province have ground to a halt after the tribal fight in the heart of Tari town. The church, which lost a majority of its properties in the 7.5 magnitude earthquake in February, has been recovering slowly, with many of its staff sleeping outside the destroyed properties to assist the surrounding remote communities with little help from outside.
At least 17 buildings belonging to the ECPNG Church were damaged in the Hela province. The buildings include the print press, guest house, the main office and most of the church residences. In Malanda at Como, a school, 8-post and maternity buildings and staff housing also belonging to the church had crumbled to the ground with only one building standing. The damage of properties extends to other parts of the province in Dauli, Walumali and Tani as well. The church's recent effort to assist the affected communities in the area and rebuild the facilities had come to a stop as tribal fight in Tari town last week has resulted in the disruption of relief supplies. Meanwhile, an emergency order number 1 was issued on the 31st of March, where PNGDF was authorized to mobilize appropriate forces to control the Tari town and surrounding areas using reasonable force, is expected to arrive in Hela today. The church also thanked those who have contributed in the past weeks and has encouraged those who still want to give to contribute through their Pioneers PNG Relief Fund. Stacey Yellow, National EMTV News.
Former commander of the PNGDF, retired Major General Jerry Singarok, says the situation in Hela cannot be resolved by short-term states of emergency. He said the SOEs are resource draining and take away police and military from other core functions. Singarok said the government needs to act on the 200-plus recommendations of the Gun Control Committee report, which he produced 13 years ago. The recommendations include community-based approaches to removing guns from people who are in possession of them. Singarok said at present there is no political will to control guns in Papua New Guinea. Moving on, as part of continuous efforts to provide quality and adequate water supply during the APEC Leaders Summit in November this year, Eda Ranu recently conducted a water resilience test. More tests will be carried out until November to ensure the additional quantity of water that will be demanded during the meeting is of quality and does not affect the existing water system and Port Moresby residents as well.
The resilience test was carried out on March 27th. According to Eda Ranu, it was successful with minimal impact on the rest of city's water supply. The first test was to see if the city's water infrastructure could deal with an additional 5 million litres of water without compromising the quality of water to Port Moresby residents and APEC visitors as well.
Testing involved making sure that we had higher levels of water in our service reservoirs, and then putting an additional 2 million litres of water through to the Ella Beach and downtown areas. And the purpose of that exercise was to replicate what we think will be the conditions during APEC, particularly with the increased number of people who will be at the convention centre, and also those that will be on the 2 cruise liners that will be berthed at the main wharf and the container wharf.
The test was conducted with assistance of an Australian consultant, Andrew Kirkwood of IMM Consulting. According to Kirkwood, the test also helped Eda Ranu identify low-pressure areas and identified a number of leak pipes that needed to be fixed.
The testing that we have done to date is both a mixture of quality testing, so ensuring that the water meets World Health Organisation drinking water guidelines, but also actual system testing as well, so ensuring that our existing water network is capable of supplying the additional amount of water.
Eda Ranu says water testing exercise will continue through to November. The components of the testing include water quality testing every week and monthly water testing by a lab overseas. All this in an effort to meet quality demands expected by APEC.
At present, Port Moresby uses between 170 and 180 megalitres or 180,000 kilolitres of water a day. During APEC, we're anticipating an additional 20,000 people to be in Port Moresby. So that equates to about 5 million extra litres of water.
Stacey Yellow, National EMTV News.
3 armed criminals were shot dead and another was wounded by police following an armed robbery at Lays downtown this morning. They were part of a group of 5 men who held up a shop owner. Police were alerted and gave chase. The criminals were seen escaping in a white vehicle. The police vehicle in pursuit was shot at twice, injuring 1 officer in the left arm. The suspects abandoned the vehicle at Busrum compound and escaped on foot to the Malahang area, fleeing further into the Sipaya and Hunter compound areas whilst shooting at police. Police returned fire, killing 3 of the men instantly and wounding another. They recovered 2 factory-made shotguns, a homemade gun and live ammunition. Lay Police Boss Anthony Wagambi Jr. says judging from the distance and impact of the shots fired at police, a high-powered rifle may also have been used. Police are investigating the incident. Mr. Wagambi is warning all criminal elements in Lay to abstain from criminal activities during this Easter. You're with National EMTV News this Monday. Koyari landowners petition the government, rural electrification launched in Bulolo, and a new style of art, painting with fire. Those stories and more when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. A court decision to pay a Koyari landowner group has been questioned. Frustrated Koyari landowners petitioned the government seeking answers as to why the group was paid 10 million kina. Trade Commerce Minister Eda Ranu received the petition on behalf of the government.
Hundreds of Koyari landowners gathered at Sogiri recently for a public forum with Minister Mori. Many expressed disappointment for the recent payment of 10 million kina to a minority group. The 10 million payment was an order from the courts.
Those are long-term issues. Never been. Never in life. Minister, on behalf of my people here, plus the steering room and all Koya, not one. We're not talking. Today, me talking here, another petition here. We all together here. We all combine together. One. Yes. We all combine one. We have 5 regions.
This is not the first petition Koyari landowners have presented to the government. So far, 3 petitions have been presented between 2014 and 2017. The Koyari landowners believe their concerns have been overlooked by the government. However, nearly 45 million kina has been paid to different groups in the last 10 years.
How do we use the money? Now it's, you mean you can point him over the finger, go government? Goodness sake, for the finger can be you mean landowners.
A community leader says it is time Koyari people identify the different land groups.
Only the current IOG is Foxy, Berry, now Omani. Me plan about IOG. Me plan we need the 10 million kina come. No, I need the submission. So me plan when your clients from me plan must get IOGs na land vetting. Lord carry him na talk through na honest work with the government.
Receiving the petition, Trade Commerce Minister Eda Ranu says the plight of the Koyari people is significant and NEC will be deliberating on the points raised.
I am going to provide an information brief to NEC so that I can be able to discuss with members of the National Executive Council on some of the issues that we have discussed today.
Jacob Pava Jr., National EMTV News.
After receiving the petition from the Koyari landowners, Trade Commerce Minister Eda Ranu says an entity must be established for the Koyari people. He says this will avoid minority groups petitioning the government over in-house issues. A meeting will be held this Wednesday to establish the Koyari Authority.
The purpose of the meeting would be primarily to strategize and design a way forward so that we can establish a sustainable entity for the people of Koyari. And that if we can be able to recognize that and give the people of Koyari the due recognition, so that in the future the people of Koyari do not need to go and threaten to shut down Rona number 2 to produce power, or have to cause damages to infrastructures to get attention.
The Police Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate has completed the first of 3 fraud investigator courses. A total of 30 investigators and police prosecutors attended the training. The main theme of the course was on money laundering and proceeds of crime investigations. The second course will be conducted in Kokopo, with the third in Madang. The training was funded by AusAid. The efforts of a company to grow renewable energy in a high energy consumption area are slowly gaining traction. Oil Search's PNG biomass project, located in the Makam area of Marbe province, aims to use wood chips to fuel a biomass power plant, which aims to provide up to 30 megawatts of power into the Ramu grid. The PNG biomass project was fully acquired by Oil Search in 2016 and since then has gone ahead full steam with the planting of trees over a vast area in the Makam Plains. According to the project manager, stakeholder engagement, Josie, the project is on track.
Yeah, the infrastructure was there, so favorable weather to plant the species. So we've selected the two main species, and one of the major ones is the Eucalyptus pilita that's been planted out there. So we're looking at about around planting 20 million trees, but it's especially working with the communities and
An important aspect of the project has been the involvement of local landowners in various aspects of the project, something which is core to the positive development so far.
So we're looking at roughly around 6,000 people out in the valley. We have what we class as Area A and Area B. So Area A is really starting from Arab to Laran. And we have two main communities, which is Zifasing and Taran communities. Then we have from Laran up to Waterai, so that's Area B. So it's actually two districts. I mean, what we do there is really engaging with the people, especially bringing the families together, bringing the communities together to engage, to work out there in the plantations, not just paying rentals to the landowners, but having them to participate. And also, especially when you look at agriculture, because there's arable land out there, but we don't look at the land that is focused on their agriculture, but underutilized land where we plant trees, but they can also intercrop in between trees and plant food crops like watermelon, cucumbers. That has brought in substantial amount of money into their pockets, and that's changed their livelihoods as well, especially for the mothers.
The PNG Biomass project is supported through a 25-year power purchase agreement with PNG Power. Under the agreement, 30 megawatts of renewable energy will be supplied into the Ramu grid by the year 2020. And with increasing political focus on delivering cleaner energy, the PNG Biomass project looks certain to be a blueprint for further development of similar renewable energy projects into the future for Papua New Guinea.
Just an example of how they can utilize these. Using those stoves, they can burn wood, boil the water and cook food, but also plug in the USB cables to charge their phones. And that's really some basic technology that we're also introducing into the community. Clean energy is important for us. So the main key thing is biomass, plants, trees. It also sinks carbon, so it's carbon neutral.
Still in Morobe Province, Segayo village in Bulolo district launched the government's rural electrification program on Friday. Bulolo MP and Minister for Communication, Information and Energy, Sam Basil, held hands with NEA Secretary Vore Veve to launch the program. Mr. Basil says districts must submit their plans so authorities know how best electricity can be extended into rural communities.
Electricity is one service the national government plans to implement in all rural areas of the country. Bulolo MP, Morobe Governor and member for Goilala William Sam, including other government officers, joined the people of Buang to witness the launch of the rural electrification program. Minister Basil says the program is not new and government intention is to light up 1,000 houses across the country.
Me no giving power of this place. Power only come karapim yupla, na go na start lo bugiao, wagao, moniao, lari, warakarap.
The National Energy Policy 2018 to 2028 will be implemented by the National Rural Electrification Rollout Program or NEROP. The soon-to-be established National Energy Authority will adopt district plans to roll out the program. Other areas in Bulolo to benefit include Middle Watut, Wau and Biaru.
So we talk thank you, Lord. Secretary Milo Camilo Yana Katim power because and Katim finish, and people go out and by Gonzalo one house. Now I'm by looking how this PMSA came put him. Because and Tasol and Basana Blabla Papua New Guinea, now I'm by carrying this program where you be piloting instead of Bulolo district, we go out to Papua New Guinea.
The Energy Minister urged other districts in the country to partner with NEA. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
Speaking in Buang, Morobe Governor Ginson Sauno said the province has performed poorly in education. According to the governor, past 2 decades have seen a decline in national examination results. He said Morobe's education reform aims at helping students to read, write and speak better English and early childhood. Governor Sauno says objectives of the initiatives include financial literacy, character development, personal health and viability, and instilling Christian values.
One per change and by making long education reform. Education reform and big for something. You must read him. Beginning more be good. Along current more be good. Along tomorrow.
Painting with fire is a new style of art introduced to Papua New Guinea by a renowned artist from the United States of America, Betsy Eby, while in PNG for a cultural exchange program through the U.S. Embassy's Art in the Embassy program. Eby had the opportunity to meet with local PNG artists for 3 days in the hope of creating cross-culture conversations from one country of artists to another. She told MTV News that she sees the need for contemporary art exhibition spaces for local contemporary artists.
Local PNG artists were introduced to a new style of painting when Betsy Eby arrived in PNG. Specialized in encaustic painting, which means to burn, Eby utilizes the technique of fusing together pigments, sap, and wax by the flame of a torch.
Century BC, Greco-Roman Egyptian times, and it's made of beeswax and something called damar resin, and it's a tree sap from an Indonesian tree, a particular kind of tree. And I mix those together on in heat. So I'll put them in a hot pot, put it in, expose it to extreme heat, liquefy it, and then I paint with this liquid wax.
Although she was doing most of the teaching, she also learned a lot from the local artists as well. Eby was blown away with the natural talent and their capacity to learn her techniques so quickly.
Artists here have taken to the medium with such skill and vision and passion, really.
She sees a big need for contemporary art exhibition space. Eby says that it should not only be the responsibility of the government to push these initiatives, but also the private and corporate sectors.
The poetry, contemporary artists are the cultural heritage now. And when people come here to visit this country, say with APEC coming up, everyone will do their business, and that's going to take care of itself. But at the end of the day, how do they want to get to know Papua New Guinea? They want to see it through the art and the beauty and the creative expression, because artists are the prophets and the poets, and they are sort of carrying the banner for this really unique and beautiful culture.
After 3 days in PNG, Betsy Eby and her husband, Bo Bartlett, a realist artist, traveled to Honiara to run a similar program with the local artists there. Lilian Soperakinea, National MTV News.
You're with Monday's News. We go for a break now. When we come back, some stories making headlines overseas. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, tropical cyclone Josie has torn through Fiji, causing mass flooding and leaving at least 4 people dead and 1 missing. Worst hit are the northwestern areas of the main island of Viti Levu, including the tourist city of Nadi. Josie has now moved on and is trekking out to sea, but as floodwaters recede, they've revealed the destruction the cyclone has left behind.
Trapped by a muddy torrent, inch by inch, the rising tide forcing its way inside this shop in the township of Mba. Outside, a river running through the streets. And runabouts pressed into service as 1,000 people are evacuated to safety. Category 1 Cyclone Josie brought devastating rain to the main island of Viti Levu, leaving several towns underwater in the northwestern districts. More than 70 roads closed and emergency services warned Fijians to stay off them. 4 people are confirmed dead. This father and daughter swept away at a bridge in Nadi. The grieving family left to pick up the pieces. 1 young man is still missing. But there have been rescues too, police plucking this elderly man from his flooded home on the northern coast, and villagers banding together to retrieve precious vehicles. Cyclone Josie is now south of Viti Levu and expected to move out to sea. Floodwaters are receding and roads are reopening, but the damage is widespread, with authorities struggling to restore power and water supply.
Poverty in bigger nations like the United Kingdom can be easy to hide. Politicians guarantee it as a complex issue with many contributing factors. For children who don't have enough, it's as simple as going to bed hungry.
How can you tell which of these young students is quietly worrying about home, parents' happiness, money and debt?
My name is Priyanka and I am 10 years old. When I leave school, I feel like being like a doctor or maybe an actress.
In a class that looks like any other, filled with concentrating, often smiling faces, poverty's cruel grip isn't always obvious.
My worry is that one day we might not be able to keep paying the bills because it's getting way too much for us. My mum, since she only works for a few hours, she's not paid that much, but she tries her hardest.
A 10-year-old girl's clear-eyed assessment of a family on the financial edge. And what Priyanka's describing isn't uncommon here at Stanhope Primary School in West London. Priyanka is one of many students who, with instructions from mum, takes what she can from the weekly visit by a free food charity.
I normally take some vegetables and some bread rolls, and also sometimes I bring some yogurts if I get them.
Priyanka's parents moved to the UK from Nepal in the 90s. The goal, a better life. 3 children later, they're getting by just.
If you calculate, it's like we are spending more than we are earning. Sometimes when it is too stressful, as a woman, I just cry. And the children get very stressed. They have got piggy bank, I can borrow their money. I said that money is not enough.
This is a home where the parents sacrifice all for their children.
And you're counting every penny?
Every penny, yeah.
It all makes a difference.
Recently, even the food prices went up 10%.
Yes.
Milk used to cost £1 only, but last 2 weeks it has gone to £1.10.
Tara works part-time for minimum wage. That money only covers school lunches and little else. Her husband must drive buses 6 nights a week.
The children, they have their daddy with them just 30 minutes in a day. He takes them to school, that's the time with him. And he's not there in the rest of the days. So they don't even know him properly.
The parents' resolve means they earn enough to struggle through most days, and that's too much to qualify for government help. So while Priyanka and her siblings are raised in hardship, they aren't officially deprived, unlike 28% of the children at their school. Head teacher Serene Siddiqui tells me some students aren't regularly fed, which impacts learning, and that ultimately alters life chances.
One girl told me that in emergency situations she goes to school, she goes to sleep hungry, for example, and when I sort of talked to her about what that might be the day that dad doesn't get any work.
Activists describe it as modern Britain's great shame, the steady, relentless rise in child poverty. It now affects 4 million children, according to a coalition of charities. And one statistic shows the complexity of the problem. In more than 60% of impoverished families, one or more of the parents has a job. They are Britain's working poor. And charities say a complex web of factors means their numbers are only expected to rise in the near future. Unaffordable housing, especially in London, recent price inflation, employment contracts which don't guarantee daily work and pay, and the government's decision to maintain a freeze on the benefits it pays to families in need. The UK government insists creating jobs and getting more people into work is the best way to fight poverty. Low-paying work and extraordinary determination allow Priyanka's parents to keep their family's dreams alive. But it's getting harder all the time, and the children know it.
I feel like happy and proud that my parents are doing so much for me, and that they don't really do much for themselves, because most of the time they normally buy things for us, not for them.
Phil Black, CNN.
To the US now, teachers in Oklahoma are planning a walkout. Despite a recent raise, they say it simply is not enough.
Drum roll.
For Donna Ross, the goal is to fill her classroom with such energy
Nice. Give my high five. 1, 2, 3. Snap. Okay.
that the kids never suspect that she works 2 other jobs to survive.
So I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning.
She drives for Uber and caters weddings because a master's degree and 20 years experience barely brings a living wage in Oklahoma.
But you can see where my net pay was, it was less than $1,200. I was being liberal, but
just over $1,000.
Correct, and
that's for
that's 1 month.
That's a month. The most desperate sell blood, and some, like this former Marine and special ed teacher, rely on church soup kitchens to eat.
And I've helped at food banks. I've helped deliver food. I've helped do all those things. I honestly never thought I would be on the receiving end. I have to swallow my pride a lot, and I hate asking for help.
This state has long been the state with the deepest cuts to education.
55 United!
But something about the West Virginia strike helped turn Oklahoma anger to action.
I mean, I got on Facebook and I typed in like Oklahoma walkout, teacher walkout, and nothing popped up, and I was like, why not be the guy that makes the group? And now it has about 72,000 people.
And it just started with you sending it to a couple teacher friends?
Just sent it to a couple of teacher friends, and they started inviting other teacher friends, and the next thing you know, I mean, it just exploded.
Wow.
So, I mean, you don't get 72,000 people in the group in 3 weeks if there's not a problem.
Just the threat of a walkout was enough to force the first new taxes here in 28 years, enough to give teachers an average raise of about $6,000. But it is a fraction of their demand, so they're still walking. But for how long? And how will this affect Arizona, where teachers there are staging the next red state revolts? The difference between a strike and a walkout is you're not defying the school. The superintendent is behind you. But could it turn into a strike if things got nasty?
A lot of the superintendents say that they support teachers and they support what teachers want to do. So I feel like as long as teachers want to stay out to fight for what we're fighting for, I think there'll be lots of support.
But teachers are not the only frustrated public servants in Oklahoma. State troopers have to ration gasoline, prisons are overcrowded, social workers are strapped, but at the same time, oil drillers and gas frackers enjoy the most generous sweetheart subsidies of any state in the country.
At one point in time, our light bulbs were every other light bulb in the building.
Really? Meanwhile, in Inola, classes are crowded. They're on a 4-day week, and the math teacher mows lawns.
We do better at this than we do at the school teaching as far as the money goes.
Is that right? You make more cutting lawns?
Yes.
Do you service the lawns of your students?
Yes.
Yes,
Several
every now and
students.
then we will.
I know that excellence is not an act. It is a habit, a way of life.
It's a similar reality for Miss Ross, who'd like to do more teaching than driving,
Yes, let's hit.
and was spotted waiting tables by one of her 4th graders,
Make sure your desk is.
and was mortified.
He just said that, Miss Ross, you really work hard. You work a lot of places, don't you? He said, you must be rich. And I said, I sure am.
Yeah, with National MTV News, we go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League. SPPNG Hunters fullback Stargroth Amian played his last match yesterday at the National Football Stadium. An emotional time for the 27-year-old as he was bade farewell after the 32-18 victory over the Tweedhead Seagulls.
Amian was farewelled by friends and fans at the National Football Stadium yesterday.
Congratulations, Stargroth Amian.
Hunters chairman Graham Osborne, on behalf of the PNG RFL and Hunters team, presented a signed jersey to Amian. It was quite an emotional time for the football star as he walked around the stadium with his teammates for the last time. He has requested to be released to concentrate on his studies, in which coach Michael Marum reluctantly accepted. He is currently studying Science Foundation at the University of Papua New Guinea.
In the next chapter, so I had to make a choice. I left school to go and play for the Hunters. I sacrificed school for the Hunters, and now I feel that it's time for me to go back to school and pursue my studies. It was a tough choice. I had a lot of time thinking about it. I just told coach was shocked, tough choices.
Amian debuted in 2015 against the South Logan Magpies and has played an essential role throughout the past 3 years with the team. Though it was a tough decision for the 27-year-old, Amian says he has achieved one of his life goals and it's now time to move on.
All my life, my one goal was to wear the kucha. Just once, and I just got it out, just call it a day. Just my level, just life goal, just studies. Yeah.
Coach Michael Marum says they will most likely play Adex Wera in the fullback position. Lajal Vet, National EMTV Sports.
And after yesterday's win, Hunters coach Michael Marum says there's still room for improvement. This is their second win after 4 rounds, with the team still working on their combinations. Marum says this win will help boost the team to perform better in the next match.
There's a lot of errors again in today's game. I think the previous game we had against Ipswich, that was all errors too. But the errors are just something that we can probably control that. Just some stuff that we're doing in the game, giving away penalties. I was telling these boys to be smart about how they play. We give away penalties last day, but when we are about to receive a ball from a kick from opposition, so that sort of thing. Just but slowly we work on those errors again. We dropped a fair bit of ball again today, so. Again, there were some big hits in today's game as well. So.
To football now, and Munka's team won in the men's division, and Munka's women's were the champions of the 2018 PMSA Easter Challenge. In the men's final, the team from the autonomous region of Bougainville claimed the top prize, the 2018 PMSA Easter Challenge trophy, thumping PS Roots.
The Mumkas team won in the men's division, and Mumkas women were the champions of the 2018 PMSA Easter Challenge. In the men's final, the team from the autonomous region of Bougainville claimed the top prize, the 2018 PMSA Easter Challenge trophy, thumping PS Roots. However, it was a hard-earned win for the Mumkas side. The match was tied at 1-1 at the full-time buzzer, that forced the game into 6 minutes of extra time. The deadlock was finally broken in the 3rd minute. So Mumkas hung on to a 2-1 victory and was crowned champions of the men's event. However, a valiant effort from the young PS Roots outfit, who dominated periods of the first and second stanza until the tiebreaker in the final minutes of added time. In the women's final, Mumkas beat University 2-1 in the penalty shootout to reign the 2018 PMSA Easter Challenge champions. In the women's division, PMSA President John Wesley Gonjuan thanked all the participating teams for making the 2018 PMSA Easter Challenge a success. Gonjuan further added that the competition went smoothly without trouble, and announced a season-proper kickoff date on the 21st of this month and urged all participating clubs to organize and prepare well for this much-awaited full competition. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
Still on football, and the Port Moresby charity soccer tournament ended with half of the divisions completing their matches this afternoon. 51 corporate houses registered for the games with a total of 105 teams in the mixed division, senior men's and women's teams and children's division. In the juniors, Puma Energy proved too good in their game by scoring 3 goals to secure first place against New Guinea, who settled for second. In the women's division, defending champions Nicta came out strong, winning their final against FinCorp, who settled for second. While in the senior mixed team and the men's game, it's currently being played, SP Brewery managed to score a spot in the senior mixed division. The overall final results will be announced later this evening on MTV Sports Scene at 8 p.m. Now don't go away, we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To some cricket abroad now, and bad light has forced an early end to day 4 of the second cricket test. The Black Caps are chasing 382 for victory against England, although a draw would also give them a series win. Earlier on, they forced the tourists to declare for much less than they would have liked.
A confident punch of the gloves between Darwood Milan and Joe Root, showing they were ready to build on their hefty overnight lead.
Nicely played.
New Zealand playing defensively, opting not to take the second new ball as England powered ahead.
Well, through the gap, and brings up this match half-century number 6.
The break coming from Colin de Grandhomme, becoming the first non-opening bowler in the match to take a wicket.
Out! Something's finally happened this morning.
England undoing all their hard work in the space of a few minutes, as Neil Wagner then removed the skipper.
And he's gone too. Joe Root's on his way. It's all happening.
The defensive tactics paying off as the new ball finally came out. De Grandhomme striking twice more.
Oh, good catch. Terrific catch. Diving away to his left, Raval.
England suddenly in danger of being bowled out, Root eventually declaring with a lead of 381. And under gloomy skies, it was an encouraging start from Jeet Raval and Tom Latham.
Square of the wicket and wonderfully timed. And again, back-to-back offside drives.
Birthday boy Latham riding his luck, put down by James Vince at third slip.
No, it's gone down. Vince thought he had it.
Bad light then forcing the players off the park, with the odds firmly favouring England. The Black Caps now left with the day to survive or try and chase down an unlikely victory.
To boxing, and Joseph Parker's team says the 26-year-old's best fight is still ahead of him. Despite losing his world champion heavyweight belt to Anthony Joshua, the Kiwi Samoan has left Wales and is now starting his long journey home, and he was upbeat as he left.
After 11 weeks away, Joseph Parker had one thing on his mind as he left Cardiff. He unofficially became known as the King of Pies after Graham Norton made fun of his physique in the fight build-up, a quip he now owns.
A few pies or just one?
Depends how I feel on the day.
What flavour?
5, 6, 7, mixture.
The Kiwi Samoan proved many of the UK fans and critics wrong in the ring, taking Anthony Joshua the full 12 rounds, but he lost on points.
Had a good rest, celebrated with the team on what we achieved here.
He will learn from this occasion. You know, this is a big time fight for a young 26-year-old in the heavyweight division, considering, you know, fighters as heavyweights don't really mature until their early 30s. So, you know, I think Joe will come back stronger than ever from this.
While Parker's trainer acknowledges his fighter should have thrown more punches, he thinks the ref has a lot to answer for.
Joe spent a lot of the fight on the outside, and when he was able to close the distance and get inside, the ref broke it up straight away, which I believe took the advantage away for us.
And he says Anthony Joshua's famous punches weren't as bad as expected.
Joe mentioned to me afterwards He said, I thought the guy would have hit harder than he did.
Despite the result, the performance won Team Park of friends across the UK and the boxing world.
We've had messages from guys like Lennox Lewis this morning, saying, hey, you won a lot of fans last night. Hold your head high. And
that they did.
Josie will be much better in the future than now. So don't give up hope. Our son is still good.
Parker's team say they'll now have a break, but promise their fighter, who has still never been knocked down, will be back in the ring within the next 3 to 6 months.
The best fights are still in front of us.
And that's it for Trukai Sports. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports. The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
I'll look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. A shower or two expected for Popondetta, fine and sunny in Port Moresby, Daru, Kerema and Alatau. To the Momasa region, a shower or two expected in Lae, showers as well for Wau, Madang, Vivek and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, showers all across the region in Lorengau, Keviang, Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg can expect cloudy weather over the next 24 hours.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the way it is this Monday, the 2nd of April 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.